Welcome to AI Applied. We'd love to have episodes every once in a while where we could just not talk about Anthropic, but what are you supposed to do when this company, which is basically at sort of like the top of the heap, along with Google Gemini, which is absolutely phenomenal, is just shipping like crazy. Now, in fairness, OpenAI is as well, Jaden. But even just yesterday, I opened Claude when it's working. By the way, Jaden, you know I love Anthropic. You do too. But Claude, come on, the downtime. I was literally giving a demo
Yeah.
to a Fortune 100 company, and Claude went down. I was like, let me switch over to Gemini, and Gemini crushed it. Thank you, Google. Anyway, so much to talk about with this. 4.7 just popped up. I had some interesting thoughts and commentary on 4.7 Opus, Claude Design, and Dario is back at the White House. Jaden, where do we even start with
I
this?
mean, this is just madness from Anthropic. And you know what's interesting? There was a post from I can't even remember who, so sadly I can't cite you, and I would if I still
Oh,
remembered. But I saw a post on X a while back which said whenever AGI is achieved, it's not going to get given to the general public immediately. First of all, it's going to be turned internally on its own company to improve everything, and then it's going to go out. And I don't think we've achieved AGI with Mythos from Anthropic, but evidently Anthropic has taken their ultra powerful model, turned it inwardly on their entire software stack, on everything they're doing, and they are just on an absolute tear, overhauling every product. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I'll take a bite out of something that just came out like an hour ago, because that's the craziest new thing. Anthropic just came out with a new tool, which is
oh,
Claude
is this
Design.
design? Yeah, I just saw
Yep.
this. I just saw this. Yeah.
So this is for creating really quick visuals. Which, to be fair, I think this is great, because Claude has always I use it a lot for coding and for websites, and I actually use other tools for design. I'll use like Lovable a lot of times to a first pass on a website to make it look really custom, and then I'll bring it into like Claude Code, move it off of Lovable, and then use it for actually developing the tool.
Mhm.
Because Claude usually has a very similar look to everything. And I've actually tried to figure out ways to get outside of that design silo where every Claude website looks like a Claude website. Evidently, this is something they're putting a lot of attention on, and they're actually going to be able to let you tweak your designs and make these customized. And what's really cool to me is the person leading this whole initiative at Anthropic. I mean, this is it feels like a legacy investment they made, but this is one of the original founders of Instagram. He went and
Oh,
started
wow.
kind of a news site, and I remember them poaching him over a year ago, I believe now, bringing him into design, and we kind of just forgot about him. He disappeared. Well, evidently, this is what he's been working on, and this is a phenomenal product. It's now rolling out. I think this is going to work with a lot of different tools. One interesting tidbit I'll say on this whole story is what right before they announced this, he was on the board at Figma. I mean, he's been working with design for a
Yeah.
long time. He was on the board of Figma. He formally removed himself from the board of Figma, evidently because Anthropic is
Oh,
about to
about to
release this
steamroll.
product that just
Jeez.
crushes Figma, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, I mean, I'll kick that over to you. But last
Yeah.
thing, actually, one more thing I want to say on this is I would say like my personal skill set is design. It's something that I love. I'm
Yep.
passionate about. It's so much fun for me. My first app I made was called Self Pause, and I designed to the pixel every screen and UI element.
Mhm.
I mean, this is before I knew what like UI libraries were, so probably naive, but I designed that entire thing from scratch on Adobe XD. Then I had to move to Figma for AI Box, my most recent company.
Mhm.
And it was, if I'm being honest, an absolute nightmare. And I'm sure
Mhm.
Figma designers are yelling at me or something, but it was just so much UI, so much to learn. And I ended up just hiring a designer and honestly never designed much, which is fine because I'm quite busy. So we needed a designer. But I think this is a big problem. There's so much software out there that has such a steep learning curve on the UI. If you can make that easy and let the AI tools do it, you
Yep.
will see massive adoption.
No, totally agree. And design. I'm glad we went over this because I'd seen that design news come out, but I was trying to figure out the difference between that and Stitch, which is Google's product, which came out and
Yep.
kind of blew everybody away. So and Jaden, I love that you learned this. By the way, kids out there, first of all, stay in school, stay off drugs, and also just learn how to do stuff. I mean, like, Jaden is kicking himself for learning that, but I'll tell you what, it makes him an amazing, designer now, just because you have to learn it.
True.
So Stitch is also by Google is also this phenomenal thing. So Claude Design is kind of this AI art director, copywriter, sort of like all in this like one whiteboard, and it helps you create like all these kind of like visuals, like slides and landing pages and um, social media posts, just like all that kind of stuff in one big thing. And of course, Claude is like right there, right? And Stitch, I was just looking this one up because I'd kind of forgotten. So Stitch is like what this is, like an AI product designer for apps and sites. So it's very specifically about designing screens for websites and mobile apps, and then handing those to an engineer or an AI dev tool. So those are kind of like the slight differences, but they're all kind of like coming up the same highway essentially, right? I mean, like they're coming up to these things which used to just own this space, like Figma and places like that. So that's amazing that these things are even out there and so much more accessible. I use Gemini products all the time, AI Studio Live, all these things, and just am blown away by how easy these things are to access. Um, Jaden, the other thing is I wanted to kind of like just bring up was this whole 4.7 Opus, which came out of nowhere. And I find 4.6 Opus just absolutely unbelievable. Again, another one, which is another sort of complaint. It just goes down. Like it's driving me absolutely crazy. And I get it. Everybody's coming onto Anthropic. But what about us that have been here since Jaden? Remember we named Anthropic the company of the year in 2024. We deserve, we
We
first in the
deserve
queue.
at least stock
At
options.
least 100, at least 3 million in stock. That's it. Just that. And it's sort of like scaling up and retro too. Maybe put anyway, with 4.7, I read something, Jaden, that before I like really got a chance to try it, that Ethan Mollick, who's obviously a big hero, Ethan Mollick is just a king in this area. He's the professor at Wharton who knows AI about as well as anybody and makes it super accessible. And he gets these products to test early. So I didn't do benchmark testing with 4.7. What he said was interesting. He claims that 4.7 has a model router, which means that it does that thing that ChatGPT does, which is it automatically takes your question and decides, is this an easy question or a hard question? If it's an easy question, it routes it to the kind of the cheaper model for Anthropic. If it's a harder one, sort of sends it over to the harder one. This is great for people trying to save money or something like this, I guess, in APIs, but it's also good just really for the company because they're not going to spend $1 million on it. But Jaden, the model router I have come to despise in ChatGPT, despite being something we had clamored for. And that's the really hard thing because now ChatGPT as default, I think can be kind of dumb and it drives me absolutely crazy. ChatGPT is smart in thinking mode, very, very smart. And you can manually pick the router, pick the model. And what I mean by models like thinking, basic, blah, blah, blah. Like you'll just kind of see a little drop down. What Ethan is saying is that you can't choose that in Claude, which will make me not use 4.7 if that's the case. Before I ask you your thoughts on that, let me also just say that this is what I do all the time, guys. I compare one large language model and another. Literally, I was on stage and people were like, well, can this work in other things? So I moved from Claude over to Gemini, over to ChatGPT. If this is you as well, AIbox.ai is your absolute best money that you'll ever spend. They now have a tier under $10 a month, which seems insane, but this is Jaden's company where you can just put in a prompt, put in your work, put in images, image prompting, anything, and it just compares models right next to each other instead of spending like $500 a month like I do. You can build workflows in there, etc. Guys, if you have not checked out AIbox.ai, it's going to save you a ton of money. It's incredible. Jaden, have you sort of like run into this problem with 4.7 or have you seen it yet?
Yeah, so there actually, I did see an update from Ethan, by the way, on this, so that is
Okay.
interesting. I liked one of his demos. He got it to generate a 3D Tower of Babel, and it like
Saw
has
that.
little workers on it and everything, and then you can like adjust the time of day, and it gets darker and lighter, and I don't know. There's just like all this like craziness. So it is quite a capable model, if we're being fair. The router thing, I think, is an issue that people are concerned about. But there was an interesting update that he posted on that specifically. He said, I'll give, because he kind of put a pretty inflammatory post out on LinkedIn, which, by the way, they gave him like early access and then he kind of roasted them. So
He
I
did.
always love that, right? They like him enough at least. He said, I'll give Anthropic credit for moving quickly. Opus 4.7 adaptive thinking now triggers thinking much more often, including
Oh,
for the tests it failed to think about yesterday. That means it is doing a lot more web search and using tools to solve problems. So far, a large improvement in output and quality on non-coding tasks compared to either Opus 4.6 or Opus 4.7 yesterday. Still
wow.
some weirdness and refusals. So
Wow.
I think what is interesting and what I'm reading here that I actually do appreciate is Anthropic, for whatever criticism you'll have about them, they do listen to the feedback.
Yeah, they
Like
do.
they listen to what people are saying, and I do always appreciate that in a company, and evidently they're listening to some of his feedback of some of the issues he had on it. and they're making changes. The model router was, yeah, a very frustrating thing. At least ChatGPT lets you hard code pick what you want. That is annoying, but at least it looks like they're making some improvements there. So I think that's a
I've seen that well by as well, by the way. And Anthropic has their own sort of guy on X. Who's it's the guy who created Claude Code, Boris, what's his name? Who created Claude Code? I'm just sort of like looking that up, or I think he actually did co-work. But anyway, so he's on X all the time, and he just like feels like Anthropic is there. And listening, Boris Cherny, he's the creator of Head Claude Code. Apparently, this is the same guy who created Co-work in 10 days. He is sort of like Anthropic's answer to our buddy Logan Kilpatrick, who is over on the Gemini side, formerly of the OpenAI side. But when you have those kind of like responsive things, it makes you feel great. Just Ethan's tweet alone now makes me want to go into 4.7. So listen, these models are absolutely tremendous. But I will say this, Jane, just from my own standpoint, because I am an Anthropic stan, Claude stan, as you know. But I'll tell you this, I've been using Gemini a ton just because Claude was going down. And boy, oh boy, Gemini's blowing it out of the water. Like Gemini's just crushing it. Maybe it's just the same model. I just hadn't seen it in a little while. But the model routing on ChatGPT still drives me absolutely bonkers. It doesn't necessarily default to internet search. So guys, I'll be like, hey, what's this meme about this? And it'll be like, oh, that sounds like a typical, funny meme. I'm like, no, dude, this meme. It's like, oh, let me search the internet. I'm like, oh my God. Like, but if I didn't know that there was a model routing capability, I would have just never used ChatGPT again. It was driving me crazy.
Oh my gosh, I had to use ChatGPT yesterday for something. I know I know I'll sound super annoying saying this, but it was just so bad. The answer was just so bad. And then it was like, would you like me to like make a revamped version that's more I'm like, oh, I had to go back to Claude and got a great response and moved on with my life. So yeah, I mean, ChatGPT really has to. The interesting thing is these are not like technology problems. It's not the models worse. It's like the prompts and the harnesses and how they're just getting the output to users and forcing you to get a worse model because they think it's an easier question. Those are the problems that I hope that they are able to figure out how to solve.
100%. This is what we see all the time. And by the way, with OpenAI, with Codex, everything else, guys, there is some smoke on the horizon here. I believe that OpenAI may be making a comeback here. We have our fingers crossed on this. But again, guys, the best thing you can do, go to AIbox.ai and just check these out by yourself. You don't have to bounce around. It's amazing to sort of get instant answers for across a lot of different models. Check that out. It's incredible. And otherwise, guys, thank you for joining us. Listen, the best thing that you can do besides check out AI Box is leave us a rating and review. We love it. We love it. We read every single one. It's a huge gift. And the other thing, Jaeden, I hope it's okay that I sort of say this. Guys, we have another, like, obviously we don't really do sponsorships. We kind of mention each other's products sometimes and things like that. But like, we have another podcast that's is not going to be for everybody, but it's called AI and Faith, and we love it because Jaeden and I, faith is sort of like central to us. No sponsors on it, nothing like that. We have like 4 reviews on there or something, Jaeden, because this is like not about that.
We
Like we
got to
wouldn't be
5. We made some
5. All
progress.
right. Anyway, if that's your kind of thing, come check it out. That's just something we like to do for fun. But again, might not be your thing. Totally cool. Listen, have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode.